Hello, it's Simon here. Today I'm going to show you how to do some wine. I decided that too many berries and things sitting in the freezer, which build up after a couple of years. So mainly all homegrown. So there's raspberries, there's gooseberries, there's some blackberries, there's some blueberries, there's some plums, a whole mixture of stuff. There's even a few red currants in there. So I decided that I was just going to empty the freezer out of all the fruit and get some wine made out of it. I usually either make wine or I make jam out of the fruits. So this time it's wine. And I haven't made any for quite a while, so stocks are running well though. So here we go. So what I've got in here, it's defrosted overnight, and I'll show you what it is in a second. But there's basically 10 pound of raspberries. Just looking at my notes here. Very important to take notes when you're doing wine. So I've got 10 pound of raspberries, 1.5 pound of gooseberries, 1 pound 13 ounce of blueberries, and various mixed raspberries, blackberries, black currants, and raspberries, 4 pound 2.5 ounce, making a total fruit load of 18.5 pound. So that's going to make a nice 5-gallon batch. So no problems with that. I was looking back at some of my old recipes from 1993 and so on. I've got red currant there and gooseberry and so on, and quite a few wines here. Marrow, autumn harvest. This is pretty much like an autumn harvest. It's a whole mixture of different fruits. So I'll be using a similar recipe to that. So I know what to do with that. So let's show you what it looks like in the bucket. What we have here is the mixed fruits. You can see there's a whole load of different types there. And what I'm going to do now is to mash them with a potato masher. So I've got this soaking in sterilizer, this masher, and it's a no rinse sterilizer, so it can just be used straight away. I'm just going to give these a good mash. Now they've all been in the freezer, so that is quite good actually for the fruits, because it means that the cell structure has been broken down by the freezing. So that allows a lot of the juice out straight away, and hence it's better for our wine. So I'm just going to continue doing that for a little bit, just till I see that the fruits are starting to break up, and I'll be back shortly. Here's my assistant, who is going to continue doing a bit of the mashing. So how's it going, Sophie?
It's hard.
It's hard. Why is it hard?
I don't know, because there's so many things in it.
It's looking pretty good. It's looking nice and fruity. Lots of juice, deep red colour. That's very nice.
Oh, there's a huge plum.
Yeah. The plums have still got the stones in, but that's no real problem. If I was making plum wine from scratch, then I wouldn't be keeping the stones in. But this one, it's not going to make too much difference, because there's only 1.5 pounds or so of plums in there.
We are now going to be adding some boiling water.
Right, I've been mashing that mixture of fruit there, and we've got a really good lot of juice in there. So I've just been using this potato masher. I'm going to fetch that out. I'm just going to add some boiling water over the top of this. Rinse off that. Now I'm going to get some more water there. And put another kettle full in there.
We are now going to be adding some pectolase.
Right, what I'm doing now is adding the pectolase, or pectic enzyme as some people call it. You need pretty much a level teaspoon like that for each gallon that you're going to make at the end of the day. So I'm going to put 5 of these in, and that goes on to this fruit that has now got the boiling water over it. I put in 4 litres of boiling water, and that's just really to give it a bit of a sterilise and a good stir around. The temperature of the mix is pretty cool, to be honest, but at least it will have sterilised it where it hit it. So I'm just going to put the pectolase in, and I'll give it a good stir around. Then I'm going to put a lid on it. I'll show you that in a minute. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's 5 teaspoonfuls of pectolase. Give that a good stir around. And what that's going to do, it's going to help break down that fruit even more and get all the cells opened up, and all of the sugars out of the fruit and able to be fermented. I'm just going to put on the sterilised fermenter lid, and I'm just going to leave this in a room temperature, 17-18 degrees thereabouts. I'm going to put on an airlock just to keep out any bugs. The airlock has got sterilising solution in it. I'm just going to put that through this grommet in the lid here, and that'll just sit there. So I'm just going to leave that like that for about 4 days, and then I'll strain it into a fermenter. See you then. Well, here's the berries that I put in here 4 days ago. What I did after we went off camera, I actually put in 2 Camden tablets, crushed up between 2 spoons into a powder, and I actually stirred that around. And the reason for that is that it gives you, it makes everything sterile in there, so that you don't have any nasty bugs off the berries. So when we pitch our yeast, there's just going to be the yeast in there. So quite important. Sorry I forgot that before, but there we go. 2 of those need to go in, so that's been done. So we're ready now to take this juice and put it into this other fermenter here, which is where it's going to actually ferment, a wine fermenter. You can do it in the bucket, no problem at all, but I prefer to do it in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just sterilising it, so I've got this full of no rinse steriliser. Oh, here it's sloshing around there, and it's been in there for about half an hour, so everything's nicely sterilised. All the equipment that I'm going to use is sterilised too, and here is the sugar that I'm going to put in. So it's actually 13.2 pounds of sugar. So to the metric people, that is 6 kilograms. Right? So that's just about right for a 5-gallon batch of mainly raspberry wine. And my assistant, Sophie, is pouring in the sugar into the bottom of the fermenter. Hopefully she's not going to spill any. This can be a bit of a messy process, so that's why we've got a towel down here, particularly when we're using the red juice. So we're just going to continue pouring in some of this sugar, and when I've got some in there, I'm going to pour some boiling water onto it and try and get it dissolved before I start pouring the juice onto it. Right, now we're just stirring the sugar in, just trying to dissolve some of it before we add the rest.
It's hard.
Difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll come and give it a shake. I might stir it a bit faster. Right, what we've got in here is the 6 bags of sugar, and I've got 4 litres of water, boiling water, that has managed to dissolve the sugar, so that's fine. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use a funnel with a grill in the bottom here, which takes out any big bits, but it also allows all the good stuff to go through. I'm going to use these 2 bags here that are going to go inside the funnel, and they're going to provide my filter. So they're like muslin bags. They're quite old ones actually, they've got a few holes in, but that's why I'm using 2 to try and stop everything. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be back in a minute. Right, so here we are. We've got the two filter bags over the funnel. So now I'm going to start pouring some of the liquid in. It's actually quite heavy, so you have to be quite careful with it. It does tend to splash about a bit, so it takes quite a while to do it. So I'm just going to do a little bit at a time, and you have to wait for it to run through the filter, but that's it. And what I tend to do is lift the bag a bit like this, just to aid it. It'll get it to go through a bit faster, but it does take a while to do this, especially when you've got so many pounds of fruit in there. And it is okay to press the bag, squeeze the bag, and that's what we'll be doing. So we'll just continue doing that. Okay, so here we have the pulp that has been squeezed in the bag. It's pretty dry there, and I will use that in the compost, so it won't be wasted. So we've gone through 2 muslin bags. This is the second one, just finishing off. So that's been quite successful. Our juice is now nicely in there with the sugar solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to top it up to 5 gallons now with some cold water, or tepid water maybe, just so that I get the temperature up to about 20, or between 20 and 22 degrees centigrade. Right, what I've done now, I've filled this up to 5 gallons with hot and cold water. So hopefully it's around about the 20 degrees. In fact, I can check that right now with this sterilised thermometer. So I'll just put that in there. Oh, we're actually a bit high there. We're at 29 degrees. So I'm going to have to wait for that to cool down a bit. So, put a bit too much hot water in. I'm going to have to wait to let it cool down before I add the yeast. However, I can do the specific gravity reading, which won't be exactly accurate because it's supposed to be done at 20 degrees, but it won't make much difference. So I'm just going to see what the starting gravity is going to be. So this has been sterilised too. Just going to let that drip there for a second. And I'm going to transfer it up here onto the bench. Put my hydrometer in it. Right, the hydrometer's sitting up pretty high there. Just give it a quick spin round, get any bubbles off it or anything. We're at 1.115, which is pretty much where I would have expected it to be. Somewhere between 1110 and 1120. So that's pretty good. 1115. So from that we can work out what the final estimated alcohol by volume will be. More on that later. Okay, I'm going to put this back into that. Check the temperature again. Yeah, it's still at 28, 29 degrees, so that will need to cool down before we put the yeast in. That'll be a tomorrow job. Right, what I'm going to do in the meantime is obviously put a top on the fermenter, which has been sterilised and filled with water in the airlock. Let's put that on here to try and make sure that these threads don't get cross-threaded. Oh, there's cross-threaded. That's it. Let's screw that on. And we'll just leave it there until tomorrow, and then we'll come back and pitch the yeast. And all I'll do is put in this yeast here. This is a Gervin GV8, suitable for red table wines. Can you zoom in on that? Suitable for red table wines, and it's Bordeaux claret style wines, and it ferments there between 18 and 30 degrees C. So we could actually put it in, but it's just on the high side, so I don't like that. I'd rather it be around the 20. So I'm going to leave it for that. And this is yeast nutrient, which I'll also be adding to the must at the rate of 1 level teaspoon per gallon. Well, the wine has cooled down just enough now. It's down to about 25 degrees C, so I'm fairly happy with that because it's saying on there it'll ferment to 30 degrees C. So I'm going to add in the yeast nutrient. So I'm going to add in 5 teaspoons of the yeast nutrient, level, or as level as I can get them. That's 1. 2. It's a bit lumpy, this. 'And break it up before I put it in. Okay, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that should do fine. I'm going to give that a good stir around. That should do it. Right, I don't need to stir the yeast at all. It says just put it on, add it directly to the surface of the prepared wine must. No need to stir. Okay, so that's what we'll do. I've always found the Gervin yeasts to be very, very good. So this is the GV8. You can see that on that. GV8. So just add that in. So there we go. Yeah, just sitting on the surface there. So we'll now put on our lid and seal it up again. That's good. You can, if you look a bit down a bit here, you'll see that I've got a heated mat. Right, I'm not going to switch that on until tomorrow morning when this has cooled down, which it will go down to about 20 overnight, I would say, maybe a bit lower. But first thing in the morning I'll switch the heating mat on, and that'll keep it at somewhere between 20 and 25 degrees C. So that should be fine. So the wine is just going to sit there and ferment for quite a while now. It could be as long as a couple of months. So I'm just gonna see how that goes. I will let you know what happens, and I'll record another episode to show you what the next steps are in making the wine. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe the videos. Thanks very much.